Wilkes County is blessed with many natural resources, and it's because of these natural resources that agriculture is such an important part of our economy here.
First of all, Wilkes ranks fourth in gross farm income in North Carolina, approximately $296 million. No other county in the western part of the state ranks in the top 10. There are 1,273 farms in the county with an average farm size of approximately 98 acres. And some notable rankings of commodities are the broiler industry is number one in the state with approximately 91 million broilers. Beef cows rank third with approximately 16,000 cows. Corn silage is second in the state and hay production is third. Also, agriculture is quite diversified in this county. Wilkes is a major apple, peach, and nectarine producing county. Also, the timber industry is huge. We have a lot of logging and sawmills. And also, there's a lot of honey production in this county.
You know, the farm community shares their land in a sense with all of us. As we drive up and down the highways, we're able to see this green space, this beauty, and it means a lot to all of us. They're good stewards of the soil, and they're the ones that feed us. And we just really need to remember that we should always thank them for all that they do for us, for helping to provide that food and that fiber and that shelter that we all need. Sustainable ag is something that we must have if we're going to stay a strong, viable county. Shelmer Blackburn is a unique one. To leave the pharmaceutical world, to come back home, to farm, to raise beef cattle, we might ask, you know, has he lost his mind? No, I don't think he has. There's something about the farming world, the farming community. If it's in your blood, you can just never get rid of it.
My dad came back out of the Army after World War II and lived with his grandparents on the original home farm, which was about 150 acres, and started making improvements to that and made a commitment to make farming his livelihood. It wasn't a particularly difficult lifestyle. I think it's something that you just have to have a passion for. In my case, I had always been interested in the sciences and medicine-related issues, so wanted to go to college, and the parents had the foresight to encourage that. And then when I got back home, having had, you know, the experiences out in other professions, out in, if you will, the larger world, a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit, wanted to take on the challenge of growing the existing beef cattle business and see where we could go with it. We started with, about 3 years ago, buying and growing about 300 to 500 head of cattle, and over the last 3 years we've expanded that into about a 5,000 or 6,000 head business, feeding cattle both locally here in Wilkes County and then sending them on to feedlots in Kansas, Nebraska, and Pennsylvania.
David Parsons is a young man that's making his livelihood off of poultry just about altogether. He is a broiler producer in the Millers Creek area, is innovative. Came to us several years ago wanting assistance on putting in a litter composter.
I got started in the poultry business in 1995. We bought a farm, and 3 years later we expanded to what we have today. We built 3 houses in '98, and in 2003 we built a new modern, up-to-date broiler house with cool cell and tunnel ventilation, and I've always been one to try to stay on the cutting edge and stay ahead of the game as far as in the chicken business, and that's how come I got involved with this forced air floor for composting and looking for alternative ways to get rid of litter other than use it for fertilizer on the fields. We know that it's a good fertilizer on the fields, but too much of it can be a bad thing for us. What we do by composting it, it'll make it a slow release fertilizer. The way we start out by starting to compost is we'll take broiler litter and we take a feed mixer and we'll take and mix it 2 to 1, 2 carbon sources to 1 nitrogen source. And what that'll do, that gives you the right mixture to get your composting started. It takes both the carbon and the nitrogen to make the microorganisms work.
The Johnsons do an outstanding job of growing chickens. Randy is, quote, the 2nd generation poultry producer. They have about 160,000 poultry or broilers on farm. They have what we call a poultry dry stack to store the litter in. Just doing a super job overall of growing poultry and making it coexist there again with the land that they have available to work with.
I grew up on the farm, and I just decided at one point I wanted to get away from the farm to see if this was what I wanted to do the rest of my life. And after I had lived away for a while, I decided that I did want to come back to the farm, and because I did have an attachment to it. We have a total of 7 houses on this farm of various sizes, and our total capacity when all the houses are full and they're all full at the same time is approximately 160,000 chickens. And we do that 6 times a year. We get the chickens when they're a day old, and we raise them anywhere from 5. They have 2 different ages that Tyson sells, a 5.5-week-old chicken or a 7.5-week-old chickens, but we end up turning 6 flocks a year, so we grow approximately almost 1 million chickens here on this farm a year. Well, I moved back here in '87. My dad turned 65 and wanted to somewhat retire, which he never really did.
Walt loves the farm, he really did. He just, well, his daddy died when he was 6 and he took it over.
It has been very good to our family here in Wilkes County. It's provided us for a lot of things that probably would not have otherwise.
Well, we started 30 years ago. We came up to Wilkes County and bought about 100 acres of land and established our business. We were both in the school system. Steve was teaching business and I was teaching kindergarten, and we worked at that for about 6 years, and then we established our business and worked at it on weekends and then developed it into a full-time job. We don't really make very much honey here. We keep bees to experiment with new equipment that we bring in from other countries or that we develop ourselves, and we have bees for training purposes for our customers, and we love to get people in the beekeeping business. We also provide bees in the spring. We sell packaged bees in the spring so people can come up and get their hives and get their bees and everything to get going.
Myers Dairy is doing really a super job in the overall management of this farm. They have been awarded the Conservation Farm Family of the Year by the Wilkes Soil and Water Conservation District. We do not pick people or choose farmers that are not doing an exemplary job, and they are doing that. Just to make a point here, there's 8 waste storage ponds or lagoons on this farm. They've been over backwards to do things environmentally correct, gone above and beyond in reality in a lot of ways. And my hat goes off to them for just doing a super job overall. They're good stewards of the land, and it's been a pleasure to work with them since 1980 in reality.
Myers Dairy Farm was started in 1949, was when my husband Dwayne's father, Glenn Myers, started selling grade A dairy milk. Now his father, Robert Gordon Myers, purchased this farm in Wilkes County in the early 1900s.
We think of ourselves as a progressive dairy farm. Over the years we've tried to stay up with technology, and we learned a long time ago that you have to be progressive to keep up. Wilkes County is not really known for its dairy production. It's a very small portion of agriculture. There's maybe 6 or 8 dairies in Wilkes County. There's 1,300 cows roughly in the dairy, mature cattle, and of that, about 830 are ours.
We're on Cranberry Farm today. These guys are diverse. They have poultry, they have beef, they grow corn. Corn is their mainstay. They grow corn for silage to sell to other livestock producers, dairies. They are fairly unique in this area. They shell corn to bag, to distribute among the various stores and the communities around as deer corn.
Our farming operation started several generations back. Myself makes the 3rd generation on this farm. Probably the bulk of our operation is row crops, consisting of corn and hay. And of course there is timberland, which 70% of Wilkes County is timberland anyway. Broiler operation here on the farm, it's been in existence since 1936. Also we're active in feeder calf operation.
Timber has been a very important source in this county ever since the county was first settled. When we look and think about the products that timber has included, that we have certainly saw timber, pulpwood, chipboard, their roots and herbs and shrubbery. All of this is an important part of Wilkes County's economy.
Typically, like this particular tract here, the landowner had a lot of different objectives, multiple use, had a stewardship ethic of managing this property for multiple resources, including periodic timber harvest. He wanted to improve the health of the forest, harvest some of the older stands that were actually declining, reforest with new mixed hardwood pine species. Mr. Director wanted to do some wildlife habitat work, and so we developed a plan and then we assisted him in implementation of the plan. He used a consultant forester to appraise and mark the timber sale, and he harvested the tract of timber, and then the Forest Service come back in and assisted him with the reforestation of the tract.
What we have been doing is we cut timber in here about 4 years ago, and we clear cut the timber so we could come back in and set a good crop of white pine back in behind it. And if you look down here, you'll see the little white pine coming up everywhere. I normally go with Forester Service. In other words, I have them in, come in, look at and evaluate. And the reason we cut this was pine beetles. We were beginning to lose a lot more trees than we were gaining. A crop of trees is almost like a crop of tomatoes. When they're ripe, they're ripe. And if you don't cut them in, you lose them. In fact, on the other side of the hill over there, I lost more timber than I cut. Just waiting because I didn't want to cut it. Truth of the matter is, it looks prettier if you don't cut it. But if you're in the forestry business, you've got to cut to make money.
The AH&W farm is an outstanding, beautiful farm. I've thought many times when I drive in the driveway here, this has got to be one of the prettiest places in the world. It's in a beautiful setting back up in the holler, so to speak, and it's a gorgeous, gorgeous place. The family is doing a super job. They're a very diverse operation. They grow peaches, apples, nectarines, corn, small grains, many different forages for hay. They've got a lot of beef cattle. They have a fairly unique operation in that they have a finishing beef operation. In other words, they grow cattle out to 1,250 pounds ready to go to market for us. Not many folks in Wilkes County do that.
Well, my grandfather started farming here. I don't know how long ago that was, but then my uncle, John Andrews, he continued on doing it, and around 1960 talked my father into moving up here and helping, and then another brother-in-law, Charles Ham, he got involved in it, and so it was a 3 brother-in-law outfit. To begin with, it was sort of a 3-way, timber, cattle, and orchard, with all 3 being pretty much equal. It's sort of changed over the years to a lot more towards cattle than it originally was.
The Speaks family are just super people. I remember when I came here in 1980, this was one of the first farms that I came on. At that time, there were really 3 generations in the make on the farm. Mr. Bergie Speaks was there, and Levon Speaks, and then Toby Speaks. And you know, it's just wonderful to see this farmland being taken care of and preserved and producing commodities for us.
I'm the 6th child out of the 7 that Daddy and Mama raised, and farming is, you know, that was Daddy's life and it was my life, and it's all I've ever really known, just to farm. How's farming different? It's still hard, but back then we had to do it the primitive method. You know, we worked the land with a horse and a mule. Daddy would have the plants pulled and we'd come home from school and we could set about 3/4 of an acre in an evening. And now with a transplanter you can set 2 acres an hour if you're running good.
Today's a very special day for ag in Wilkes County. The Allen and Dwayne Sidden families of Trap Hill are being recognized as North Carolina's Conservation Farm Family of the Year Award. You know, these folks are really doing an outstanding job of applying conservation to their land. They take care of it, realizing that if they care for the land will care for them. They grow broilers, cattle, corn for silage. They do a lot with their woodland. They're very, very resourceful people that know how to make it, and we are just extremely proud that some 250 people are gathered here today to celebrate this tremendous honor, and we're just very, very proud of the Sidden family, and we appreciate all they do to help promote and sustain ag in Wilkes County. As we come to the conclusion of our production here, I think we'd really be remiss if we don't take a second to say a very special thank you to the Wilkes County Commissioners, to the Preserve America folks for funding this production. I think it speaks very clearly to them realizing the importance of Wilkes County agriculture. The economy here would really suffer without ag. It's been the lifeblood of Wilkes economy throughout all of time, and I think too we'd be very remiss not to say a very special thank you to all the farms that we visited, to our farm community as a whole. You know, our food really doesn't just come from the grocery store. Our farmers are the ones that produce it. They produce the food, the shelter, the clothing that really make it possible for us to live. These are the necessities of life that we have to have, and they're the ones that make it possible for us to have them. And we really appreciate everything that they do for us.